Hello everyone, my name is Walter Henson. I'm 71 years old, retired carpenter, born and raised in a small Midwestern town most people pass through without noticing. I've built houses, fixed broken doors, and raised one son with these hands. And today I'm telling you the story of the day I woke up after 9 months in a coma, only to realize my own blood had already buried me. Let me ask you something real quick before we go any further. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you never imagined they'd be the one to destroy you? Because that's exactly where this story begins. I opened my eyes to blinding white light and the steady beep of a heart monitor. My body felt like concrete, my mouth was dry, my arms wouldn't move, and before I could even understand where I was, I heard a voice I knew better than my own. Not a prayer, not relief, not "Dad, thank God you're alive." No, I heard my son say calmly, "I already signed the house over. We didn't think you were coming back." Those words didn't just hit me, they crushed me. I turned my head as much as my neck would allow. Standing beside my hospital bed was my son, Ethan, arms crossed, eyes distant. Next to him stood his wife, Lauren, her face stiff, polite, the same expression she always wore when she wanted something. "What did you say?" I croaked. My voice sounded like it belonged to a stranger. "The house," Ethan repeated, like he was explaining a late bill. "I transferred it to Lauren's parents. Doctors said your chances were basically zero." We had to make decisions. I tried to sit up, my body failed me. Months of stillness had turned my muscles into rubber bands ready to snap. "That house," I whispered, "is mine. I built it, every board, every nail." Lauren stepped forward before my son could answer. "The paperwork is done, Walter," she said coolly. "Everything's legal. It was finalized months ago." I searched my son's face, desperate to find the boy I taught to ride a bike, the teenager I worked double shifts for, the man I trusted with everything I owned. He wasn't there. In his place stood someone who looked like him but felt like a stranger. "How could you do this?" I asked. Ethan sighed like I was being unreasonable. "You have to be realistic, Dad. You were gone. Medical bills were piling up, my in-laws needed help, and technically I'm your only heir." That's when something inside me cracked. I didn't wake up from a coma that day. I woke up into betrayal. And listen, if stories about family, loyalty, and justice hit close to home for you, take a second right now and subscribe to this channel. These are real feeling stories meant to remind us we're not alone. And tell me in the comments which state you're listening from. I read every single one. Now back to what happened. Lauren cleared her throat. "You'll be discharged in 2 days," she said. "Insurance won't cover more. We can take you to a small apartment outside town. It's not ideal, but I want my house," I said. She didn't even blink. "That's not possible anymore." Ethan nodded. "And Dad, even if you tried to fight this, you don't have the money. Your savings went toward your care." That was the moment I realized something terrifying. While I was lying unconscious, fighting to breathe, fighting to live, they were erasing me. 2 days later, they walked out of that hospital room and never looked back. What they didn't know, what no one knew yet, was that the man who went into that coma was not the man who came out. And as I left that hospital in silence, with nothing but a plastic bag of clothes, I started planning. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness, sometimes it's strategy. They didn't even drive me themselves. On the day I was discharged, a hospital transport van dropped me off outside a small, gray apartment building on the edge of Ridgewood Falls. No trees, no porch, no warmth. Just cracked concrete and a flickering hallway light that buzzed like it might give up any second. Ethan handed the driver a folded bill, signed one last form, and turned to me. "This is temporary," he said. "Until things settle." I nodded slowly, not because I believed him, but because I was too tired to argue. My legs shook as I stepped inside the apartment. One room, a narrow bed, a used recliner that smelled like old cigarettes. A microwave that hummed louder than it worked. Lauren didn't come in. She stood at the door, arms crossed, eyes scanning the place like she was checking off a task. "We stocked some groceries," she said. "Nothing fancy. You're diabetic, so be careful, be careful." The woman who signed my house away was telling me to be careful. Ethan hesitated for half a second. "I'll check in when I can, Dad." I looked at him then, really looked. "You won't," I said quietly. His jaw tightened. Then he turned and walked away. The door closed, and just like that I was alone. That first night I didn't sleep. Every creak of the building sounded like a reminder of what I'd lost. I stared at the ceiling and replayed memories I thought were safe forever. Sunday breakfasts in my kitchen, fixing Ethan's bedroom door, Lauren smiling at me the day she married into our family. I wasn't grieving a house. I was grieving my place in their lives. The next morning I tried to make coffee. My hands shook so badly I spilled half the grounds. My body still wasn't right. My mind felt foggy. But one thing was painfully clear: they thought I was finished. Old, weak, conveniently forgotten. And that's when something shifted inside me. I may have been pushed out, but I wasn't powerless. You see, before I became just an old man, I was a carpenter for over 40 years. I ran my own small business. I paid my taxes. I kept records. I trusted paper more than promises. And as I sat there in that broken recliner, staring at a stack of unopened mail Ethan had forwarded without checking, I saw a bank envelope. My name on it. Curious, I opened it. Inside was a statement that made my heart pound harder than it had since waking up. There was money still there, not everything, but not nothing either. They hadn't been as thorough as they thought. Right then, I want to pause for a second and say this: if you've ever been underestimated because of your age, because of your silence, because people thought you wouldn't notice or fight back, hit the like button. It helps stories like this reach others who need to hear them, because what came next wasn't loud, it wasn't fast, but it was deliberate. That afternoon, I took my first walk outside alone. Slow steps, cold air. A town that suddenly felt unfamiliar, even though I'd lived nearby my whole life. I stopped at a public bench and watched people pass, young couples, tired workers, parents chasing kids, and I realized something painful but powerful. The world hadn't ended for me, only my old life had. And if Ethan and Lauren believed I was just going to fade away quietly, they had no idea what kind of man they'd awakened. Because while they were busy enjoying my house, I was starting to remember everything. I've learned something about betrayal. It doesn't roar, it whispers, and the loudest betrayals are hidden inside paperwork. That bank statement kept burning in my pocket all day. When I got back to the apartment, I sat at the tiny table and spread everything out: mail, discharge papers, copies Ethan had left behind like trash. That's when I noticed something odd: the power bill for my old house, still addressed to me. Same with the property tax notice. I leaned back slowly. If the house was really theirs, why was my name still tied to it? My heart began to pound, not from fear this time, but from clarity. They rushed. They were confident I wouldn't wake up, and when I did, they assumed I wouldn't understand. That night, I dug out my old notebook, the one I'd kept since my carpenter days. Every job, every payment, every legal document I ever signed. You don't survive 40 years running your own business without learning one thing: if it's not written right, it doesn't hold. The next morning, I took the bus downtown. I didn't tell Ethan, didn't call Lauren. I walked into a small legal aid office with faded blue walls and a woman at the front desk who looked up at me kindly. "How can we help you today, sir?" I swallowed. I need someone to explain something to me before my family finds out I'm asking. That sentence alone told her everything. An hour later, I sat across from a junior attorney named Mark Reynolds. Young guy, calm eyes, listened more than he talked. I slid the documents across the desk. He flipped through them once, then again, slower. His eyebrows tightened. "Mr. Harris," he said carefully, "who signed this transfer?" "My son," I replied, "and his wife, and you." "I don't remember signing anything." Mark leaned back. "Then we have a problem," he said. I felt my throat go dry. "A bad one for them," he answered. "Turns out the document Ethan used wasn't a full property transfer. It was a temporary medical power agreement, misfiled and rushed through while I was unconscious. Legal, barely, permanent. Absolutely not, and here's the part that made my hands tremble. Lauren notarized it herself. Conflict of interest, big mistake. Mark looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "They didn't steal your house quietly, they stole it sloppily." If you're watching this right now and you're thinking, this could happen to anyone, you're right. And that's why I ask you to subscribe. These stories aren't just entertainment, they're warnings, quiet ones. I left that office with copies, notes, and a plan, but I didn't rush to confront them. No. Because revenge rushed is revenge wasted. That evening, Ethan finally called. "Hey, Dad, everything okay?" I smiled to myself. "Yeah," I said gently. "I was just thinking, maybe I'll come by the house this weekend." "I miss it." There was a pause, just half a second too long. Well, we've been busy, he said. Renovations and stuff. That's fine, I replied. I won't be in the way. Another pause. Lauren's voice whispered something in the background. Fear sounds different when it doesn't know it's been caught yet. They still thought I was confused, harmless, alone. They had no idea that while they were repainting walls, I was gathering evidence, and the walls they were standing on, they weren't theirs. Saturday came faster than I expected. Ethan didn't invite me. I invited myself. I stood across the street from my old house, and for a moment I couldn't move. The white porch railing I built with my own hands had been painted charcoal gray. The maple tree I planted when Ethan was 10 had been trimmed down like it didn't deserve space anymore. I felt like a stranger attending his own funeral. I rang the doorbell. Lauren opened it. Her smile arrived late, forced, stretched thin like cheap fabric. "Oh, you actually came," she said. "I told you I would," I replied calmly. Inside, the house smelled different. Not bad, just unfamiliar. New candles, new furniture, my old recliner gone, family photos gone. Even the hallway clock I used to fix every winter missing. Lauren noticed my eyes moving. "We updated things," she said quickly. "You know, fresh start for them." Ethan came down the stairs, pretending to be relaxed, but his shoulders were tight. "Dad, you should have called first." I nodded slowly. Didn't want to be a burden. That word hit harder than any slap. They offered me a seat on a stiff, modern couch. I declined. I walked instead, room to room, like a ghost checking what was stolen. In the bedroom that used to be mine, I froze. My dresser, where I kept letters from my late wife, was gone. "Where are my things?" I asked. Lauren folded her arms. "We donated most of it." "You weren't using it." Something cracked inside my chest. Those weren't things. That was my marriage, my memories, my proof that I existed before I became inconvenient. Ethan finally spoke up. "Dad, you weren't supposed to come in here." I turned to him. "Son," I said quietly, "do you remember the night your mom passed?" He swallowed. "You sat on this bed and cried into her pillow," I continued. "And I told you this house would always be yours too, not instead of me, with me." Lauren shifted uncomfortably. That's when I noticed it. On the wall, framed, centered proudly, a new deed printout. Their names, big font, decorative frame. That wasn't confidence, that was overcompensation. I smiled softly, and that smile scared them more than anger ever could. I turned back to them. "I won't stay long," I said. "Just wanted to see my home one more time." Lauren relaxed too fast. "Of course," she said, "we're family. Family." I walked out without another word, but as I stepped off the porch, something caught my eye. A contractor's truck parked nearby. Same logo I recognized from years ago. Same company that once quoted me for roof repairs. They were renovating a house they didn't legally own. Which meant every receipt, every payment, every improvement was about to become evidence. They thought I came for closure. What I really came for was confirmation. I didn't confront them. That's the mistake most people make. They expose the truth too early and give liars time to run. Instead, I waited. Every morning I sat by the apartment window with a cup of weak coffee and watched the world wake up. And every afternoon I took notes. The contractor's logo stayed in my mind, so I made a call. Same company, same office. I didn't accuse, I asked questions. "Hi," I said. "I'm checking on renovations at my property on Willowcrest Lane." There was a pause. "Sir, the owners authorized." "Which owners?" I interrupted gently. Silence, then papers shuffling. Ethan Harris and Lauren Harris." "Good," I said. "Please email me copies of all invoices. I'm updating my records." They sent them. Every nail, every board, every dollar, paid from a joint account that still carried my name. That night I spread the documents across the bed like puzzle pieces. They weren't just living in my house. They were funding their renovation with my money. That's when Mark, the attorney, called. "They filed for a quiet title update," he said, "trying to erase your claim." I smiled. "Too late," I replied. Because while they were rushing paperwork, I had already signed something of my own. A temporary lien notice, filed legally, delivered quietly. They wouldn't see it until it mattered. If you're watching and thinking, why not just yell at them? This is where wisdom beats rage. And if this story feels personal to you, subscribe. Not because I'm old, but because experience earns its voice. 2 days later, Lauren called me. Her voice was sharp, fake calm. "Did you file something against the house?" I waited a beat. "I filed protection," I said, "for my assets. You don't need to do this," she snapped. "We're family," I almost laughed. Family doesn't erase people while they're unconscious, I replied. She hung up. That night Ethan texted, "Dad, we need to talk." I wrote back, "I agree, but not yet." Because the real damage wasn't emotional anymore. It was financial. They couldn't sell, they couldn't refinance, they couldn't hide. Every improvement they made only increased what they owed me. They were building their future on a foundation that legally still belonged to an old man they thought was finished. They didn't know it yet, but the house was already sliding back into my hands. The night I decided to confront them, I didn't sleep. Every moment felt like walking on a tightrope over a pit of fire. I arrived at Mabel's cafe just as the sun was dipping below the horizon. The warm glow inside contrasted sharply with the storm in my chest. Mark, my lawyer, waited outside. I didn't want him in yet. This was personal. At exactly 6 p.m., Ethan and Lauren walked in. Ethan's shoulders were tense, his eyes darting. Lauren's lips were pressed tight, like she was biting back words that could destroy her. "Sit," I said, my voice calm, steady. They obeyed, confusion written all over their faces. I placed the folder on the table, thick, solid, heavy with truth. 2 days ago I visited Gwyneth Holloway, I began. The notary, the woman who certified your documents, she told me everything. Ethan's face went pale. Lauren's fingers clenched the table edge. I opened the folder, forged medical certificates, power of attorney obtained through lies, the supposed sale for $80,000 that never happened. "This," I said, pointing to the papers, "is real estate fraud, forgery, embezzlement, and it all points to you." Lauren's mask slipped. "We had no choice. My parents needed help. We were desperate." I shook my head. "Desperate doesn't give you the right to steal from your father. It doesn't give you the right to wish him dead." Ethan's voice cracked. I thought it would be easier if you didn't wake up. I didn't know. You just what?" I cut in. "Betrayed your own blood." Silence, heavy, suffocating. Then I laid out the final choice. Option 1, I take every document to the district attorney. You face criminal charges. The house, the money, the lies, all exposed. Option 2, you undo everything in 72 hours. House back in my name. Every penny returned, full confession to your parents. You help them find a new place. And after that, I never want to see either of you again." Ethan sobbed. Lauren's face drained of color. I can do it," Ethan whispered. "I can fix this." "Good," I said, calm, resolute. 72 hours. After that, the law decides, not me. Before leaving, I said quietly one last time, "When I built that house, every brick was for you. Every hour, every sacrifice, and you gave me betrayal. This is your last chance to make it right." They left, shoulders heavy with guilt, realizing the game was over. 2 weeks later, I moved back into my house. The changes Ethan and Lauren's parents had made were there, yes, but nothing I couldn't fix. I planted new roses in memory of Ruby. They weren't hers, but they bloomed in the same sunlight. Mabel came over, bringing food, music, and that unshakable friendship that had kept me alive in the darkest months. "How do you feel?" she asked as we sipped coffee in the kitchen I had built with my own hands. "Empty and full at the same time," I admitted. "Empty because I lost my son. Full because I regained my dignity, my home, and the truth." I thought about Ethan. Would he ever change? Maybe, maybe not. That wasn't my responsibility anymore. I had fulfilled my role as a father. The rest was on him. Sterling, my lawyer, had been amazed by how everything resolved. "Most people would have gone straight to the DA," he said. "I didn't want revenge," I replied. "I wanted justice, and I got it." The neighbors found out, of course. Small towns don't hide secrets. Some came to support me. Others whispered with morbid curiosity. But most just welcomed me home. 6 months have passed. My body recovered far better than anyone expected. I work part-time at Mabel's cafe, not for money, but for companionship, for purpose. I've learned something crucial. What makes us human isn't the houses we build or the money we hoard. It's the connections we form. It's the people who lift us when we fall. It's the dignity we protect, even when others try to steal it. A week ago, I received a letter from Ethan. I haven't opened it yet. Someday I might. Someday I might face his words without my heart breaking all over again, but not today. Today I'm on my porch looking at the roses, feeling alive, grateful to have woken up, grateful to have fought for what was mine, grateful to know that forgiveness isn't for them, it's for me. If you're watching and have faced betrayal, remember this: you can survive, you can rebuild, you can reclaim your life. If this story moved you, subscribe to the channel, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is.